Can you please give your view on how racism and discrimination has prevented people of color, Black people, Indigenous people in being represented properly in the arts and culture sector? And what you think the role of arts and culture is in building awareness, turning people's ideas, and building the movement we need in order to change the global and national systems we are living under.
Well, I mean, and thanks for having me. But I think the very fact that the arts have for a lot of times been used to enforce racism, to reiterate it, to allow these things to happen, is proof enough that we can use it to undo these things. Audre Lorde once said the master's tool can never, the master's tools can never tear down the master's house, but it's not the master's tools. A lot of as somebody, and I say this as somebody who writes literature, but a lot of the most enduring forms of racism that I experienced where it was through literature, was through books, was through a sort of Eurocentric kind of view and a sort of Eurocentric kind of teaching. And in the Caribbean, in Jamaica where I grew up, racism, works on a far subtle and far more enduring way. Somebody from the Caribbean will look at what happened in Minneapolis and say, well, at least where we live, it's class, it's not race. And I mean, of course I think it's class, because that's what colonialism taught us. So, so it's, I think that the sort of a centering of a white narrative or a white male narrative in fiction and in art, they sort of judging everything by a European standard. We still sort of use European taste as the matchstick for judging, even African art. So I think it works on all sorts of levels. But art has also done the opposite, where instead of sort of speaking truth to power, sometimes it sort of ignores it and allows lies, to happen. The art can be very instructive and art can be very useful, but art can also be very solipsistic. I'm not saying that everybody has to sort of suddenly become militant, but I think that art, certainly the literature I write and I hope sort of in its own way speak to the situations that we're living in. George Floyd was killed on 38th and Chicago in Minneapolis. I live on 30th and Chicago in Minneapolis, so I was just 7 blocks away, or I lived just 7 blocks away from where he was killed. That is going to impact me as a writer. It's going to impact me as an artist, and it's something that art can definitely play a role in. The last thing I would say is enemies of art and enemies of culture know its power. That's why they can't try to suppress it. That's why they burn books. That's why they ban artists. It's funny enough, it's us, it's allies, it's people like us who are in it and appreciate it. We're the ones who don't understand our art form's power. Enemies of our art form fully understand it. We're the ones who don't.